Guys, say hello to our 25th diesel truck giveaway, where we're giving you guys a chance to take home this 2005 5.9 Cummins plus $5,000 cash. And right now, every $1 is 10 entries, but that deal ends on June 29th. Place those orders while you can. Best of luck to you. That'll be fixed soon. Well guys, we are in the 5.9 headed over to the hardware store. We got to pick some stuff up, and I'm pretty excited to get this done on this thing. Actually, it's for the fog lights on this truck. We put the new fog lights in this thing because the fog lights that were in it were terrible. They really didn't even work, and they weren't wired up to anything, and this thing doesn't have a factory fog light switch in it in the first place, so you couldn't use them. What we ended up doing was putting the new fog lights in there, and they're on the bumper brackets, the factory holes. It did have the fog light brackets there, so that was good. So they're bolted onto those, and they're just sitting there, and the wires are just hanging out of them. So we found a wiring harness that I actually had in the shop, and it's gonna work just fine for that, so we're gonna use that. But I'm gonna need to cut the ends of the wiring because they're set up for factory fog lights, which the truck did not have, so the connection that comes on those fog lights isn't gonna work anyways. So all I'm gonna have to do is cut the connector off on the end and then strip a little bit of the wire, and then basically just put little connectors on there. That way we can actually just have nice little connection points to plug into the wiring, and it'll work perfectly fine. And that way, if the bumper's got to get pulled off for paint, all he has to do is literally unplug it and then pull it off, and the fog lights and everything will just come off. And then when he puts it back on, he can just plug them back in. So we're going to pull up to the shop here and pick up the stuff that we need and get back over here and get these things wired up. And let me know how you guys like this filming on this iPhone. I haven't ever really done this before, but I'm waiting on getting my mic for my other camera, and I've actually kind of grown to like this iPhone with this little stabilizer on it because it's actually very functional, and it's not really like in the way, and the video stabilization is actually really stinking good with this thing. So let me know down in the comment section below, do you like this video quality? Has it been good or no? We're going to be working on the fog lights. You're going to need some wire cutters, connectors, zip ties, some electrical tape, some extra wire if you don't have a dual connection style harness. This one's not, they make them, but this one just isn't one. So you're just gonna need a little bit of wire. It doesn't necessarily have to be red and black. I like to keep my positive and negative wires though color coordinated. It just makes it a lot easier when you're dealing with the harnesses, and that's the color coordination they use. If you know, when you're plugging and unplugging stuff, you're not connecting it the wrong way and then wondering why your lights are flipping on when you have to go back and forth. If, for example, you have to remove the bumper, color coordinated stuff just helps. And then you have to have, of course, your wiring harness that's going to go to your battery, to a relay to make sure you don't blow anything, and then a small relay box. Well, this is an inline fuse relay box switch. You get the idea. Wiring harness, pretty simple stuff. Here's our new fog lights that we put in the truck the other day. They look awesome, but they don't currently work because there's no factory fog light wiring. So here's the end that I was talking about, just a black and a red wire. So I'm just going to snip it right there, cut some of this back so we have plenty to work with, and then I'm going to show you how I do the connectors and put those on, which is going to be adding one of these to each of the wires and adding one of these to each of the new wires we're going to make. So I'm going to get to working on the wiring harness first here, and then once we get that done, then we'll go to the next step and show you as we go. So I'm actually going to show you how to do one of these connectors like what I was talking about on this fog light. Probably would have been a little bit easier to show you on the other one, but I already got it done, so I thought I'd show you how I'm actually connecting these fog lights and making a new connection to go from the wiring to these. So if I can get my camera to cooperate here. So here's the wiring right here. I'm actually going to try to do this while looking at the reflection in the camera. So you got to take this wiring, and I'm cutting the connector off as close as I can to the base. So there that is, that's cut off. I'm gonna take these wire strippers, use them on the smallest setting at the top there, right there. I'm gonna grab that, pull it down. Okay, we got that one done. Now we gotta do the red one. Same thing. Now this portion, you do kind of have to look at it, so I'm gonna look at it here. Slide your connector on by just sliding the wire through, and then you're gonna use this portion of the tool right here in the middle. Put it around your connector. And you're just going to crimp it on there like that. And what it does is it smashes that wire to hold it tight. Well, it smashes the connection around the wire so that your wire connector doesn't slide off. Then you got both your connectors on. That's all you do. So I just showed you how to do that on the driver's side. Now on the passenger side, I already got that one done. So here's the passenger side done, and there's just enough wire sticking out down low so you can see the red and the black. That's how it's supposed to look. Very simple. And now you're gonna be able to just plug this into the harness that I also had to rig up, which is also very, very simple. All I did was held the wire out as far as I could stretch it from this fog light to this fog light, which is about my wingspan, and then I knew how long of wire I was going to need, and then I just took it and I put the connections on the end there. And then with those connections on the end here, it's going to make it really easy to just plug into your fog lights. Just match the red to the red, black to the black. And then of course what I did, you don't have to do that. There's all different ways you can do this. But I just took zip ties and I zip tied the wire together in about 10 different spots there. That way it kind of held it together as one unit, and I didn't just have two separate wires dangling around getting a mess. And then I spliced the wires to the original harness here, and then these are just going to plug in on the driver's side, and then this end down here is going to plug in on your passenger side, obviously, because the shorter end has got to stay closer to the battery where the power is coming from. And then once these are plugged in, I'm going to put a little bit of electrical tape around them and the connection points. But that way, the positive and the negative wires, when they're hot, they're not touching themselves and shorting out the system. So now what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to actually take the truck here, I'm going to pop the hood, and I'm going to run all the wiring, get that all ran through, run this down and plug this into the fog lights, run the switch into the cab, and then I'll show you what I do with the switch. But for the wiring, it's very simple. Obviously the connection points I just showed you, that is actually what's going to go to your pods or your fog lights. And of course this here, your red's going to go on the positive of the battery, the black's going to go on the negative. This relay box right here, there's already a hole pre-drilled in it. You can just take out one of your fender bolts and then screw this in. I'm actually going to put it in the fender bolt that I just took the old relay out of for that extra wiring that was just in the engine bay. That's where I'm gonna hook this up. And then for your switch, you're just gonna probably have to unplug the connection down here, and then all you're gonna do is unplug this like that, and then go into your engine bay. And there's actually already a hole there if you can remove the rubber plug, and then you can just run this into the engine bay. And then your switch, obviously you won't have to unplug all these, but if you have to, you can just take a picture of where they're all plugged in, so that way you have an easy thing to look at to make sure it's done right. Clean up the engine bay by zip tying all your wiring out of the way, and then that's pretty much it. New fog lights all wired up, and they look stinking good. They work, and I tried to make the wiring as clean as possible and as easy to use as possible. If for some reason down the road you do have to remove the bumper, let's get to showing you what it looks like. So of course, here's your fog light on the passenger side, and I want to get under here and show you the wiring. So I've got the wiring right here, and I just put a little electric tape around this because these were not waterproof connections. Just did a little electrical tape so that the connections don't touch each other, and then it just goes here, and it's not zip tied to the bumper in case you got to remove it. If you do have to remove the bumper at some point, it's zip tied to the end of the frame here, okay, and then it's zip tied to the bottom of this unit right here, which is the radiator. You can see this lays up under this track. It's zip tied there, zip tied to the end of the frame here as well, and then there it is connected to the fog light on that side. So I mean, it looks pretty darn nice in terms of being out of the way. And then if you have to remove the bumper, all you do, like for this side, is you remove the little bit of tape, and then it just unplugs, and then the fog light's still mounted to the bumper. Same for that side. If you just want to unplug that so you can take the bumper off and leave the fog lights mounted to the bumper, you can just unplug those connections, and then this wiring will stay suspended where it's hooked up. And then the wiring, I had a little bit of extra, and that's just zip tied into a bundle tucked down out of the way. It goes up into here, and then here it is right here connected to the negative side. And then you can see this connected to the positive side of things. And then I use these zip ties to clean up the wiring and keep it held nice and tight all the way around. And then here's the relay bolted onto the side of the fender with a factory bolt. Now that's all the wiring under the hood and under the front end there. Now I'm gonna show you how the switches ran on the inside. And I tried to run the switch the way that I thought made the most sense. So you can see the switches right here, and it's right below the brake lever. Now this truck, if this was a manual transmission truck, I wouldn't want to do this because you'd probably use your brake a lot more and have to use this release lever. In this truck, you don't really, at least in most cases, you're probably not really going to use your brake unless you're somebody who's constantly parking on a super steep driveway or a super steep street or something, wherever the truck may end up. But for the most part, you're not going to use that. But if you have to, you still can. You can just pull this down just a hair, and then you can still see, if you just bump it down with your thumb, you can still release your brake here, and it's fine. But that is nice and tight in there. I mean, it has a little tiny bit of wiggle room, but not much, because I made sure that the wiring was nice and tight and zip tied up out of the way, up under the dash, so you can flip your light bar on and off very easily. The reason I didn't cut a hole in the dash is because I don't know if whoever wins this truck isn't going to end up wanting this. For some reason, they might not like having the fog lights wired like that, and they want to wire them to the switch and change out the dial and make it seem like it's OEM and all that other stuff, which you can do. But they might not want this switch. They might want to do it a different way, and therefore I don't want to like put a hole in the dash and like cut this out right here or cut it out here and stick a switch in there, and then whoever ends up getting the truck's like, I really wish you wouldn't have done that, because I was gonna wire them up different when I got the truck. You see what I'm saying? That's totally functional where it's at. It's like out of the way, it's not hurting anything. So let's flip it up here so you guys can see the fog lights. These things they're pretty stinking bright. But yeah, they look really stinking good. I hope you guys liked the way I did the wiring. I did it the best that I could. I thought the wiring was pretty well put out of the way. It made the most sense the way I did it. And hopefully you guys don't mind the switch being where it's at. If you guys want me to, you know, if you know, 90% of the comments say, yeah, cut a hole in the dash and stick the switch in, we can do that. I just didn't want to do that and then somebody be like, really? I was gonna wire it up a different way once I got it, or you know, I really don't care for the light bar pods or the fog lights and I'd rather swap them out. I don't know. You just never know. You could always have the few people that would not want the switch put in the dash, and then they're upset about it. And you know, with this being this way, you can always do it. You know, this isn't hurting anything. The switch is nice and snug where it's at. You can still release your brake if you have to. It's just the best way that I could do it and not have to cut holes in the dash, because And I just didn't want to go that route if I didn't have to. Let's get Rosine started up and pulled in the shop. What I would like to do is get to finishing the frame coating process with that Rust-Oleum flat enamel, because we did not do the driver's side yet. As you can see, it could use some coating to match the rest of it. Let me show you what we did with the axle for those of you who may not have seen yet. So there's the front axle all coated up. I mean, it looks just about like brand new. I mean, it looks really good. We masked off the coils so we didn't spray those. You can see the frame up here. We coated that all up, got that all painted. Of course, underneath here, all that. And then here's the back, the leaf packs, the frame here. So it turned out really nice, as you can see. And so, of course, all we're looking to do is coat the other side as well. Just didn't have time to do it yesterday, but today we're gonna finish it. I was talking to Devin today about getting the front leveling spacer removed. I could try to do it in here, but I just don't want to have to end up having to pry on those coils and stuff because I don't have a lift and the right tools, and scratching the powder coating off those front coils and stuff, and then they start rusting and whatever else. I just don't want to damage anything. And he said it would take maybe an hour or two at the most because they've got, you know, the big lifts and all the tools and everything you can think of. So it would just be like pull it in the bay, pop the front lift spacers out, and then that'd be it. We'd be done. Overview time. I'm going to show you how it turned out. It's not like 100% dry, but it's pretty darn dry already. This is just 2 coats, just like I did the other side. That is not a run mark for me. That's like it's like a weld or something. I don't know, but it's not from paint. But yeah, it turned out really good, just like the other side. It's so easy to apply this stuff too, and it's really easy to aim it and make sure you get it in the right spot. I mean, it's not hard to do, and it really does clean up your frame super nicely. I mean, it's the underside of your truck, you know, it's not the end of the world if you do get a little overspray somewhere. I know there's some guys that are out there that obsess over detail on the underside of your vehicle, powder coated suspension, and, you know, your frame being polished, and I get it. If that's your thing, that's cool. When I see those kinds of things, I'm like, that's freaking sweet. But for this truck, in its current state, all the goal was for that is just to kind of clean it up so that if she wants to hit a couple truck meets this summer and, you know, her truck's out there, you know, if there's any kind of small rust spots, it at least gets those coated up so that it looks like new. That way it just was cleaned up for now. But again, with this kind of stuff, if you want to go and do it up completely different soon and you want to do a bunch of powder coating or you want to do a frame off, whatever, Rust-Oleum flat protective enamel isn't like, it's not like it's an impossible thing to get off. It's just like sanding off paint. It's really not that hard. Well, we got the sun loaded up in the 3rd gen. I'm gonna be doing a little bit of watching of the child and also uploading some videos again. So let's get this truck started up and get on down the road. I'm gonna have to reinvest in buying like my 3rd GoPro and just hope that I don't lose the next one, because the last couple of GoPros that I bought them, and then in our moving process, somehow they disappeared and we can no longer find them. Those were great for different angles and being able to film like shifting through gears and stuff and going down the road and whatnot, and hands-free filming. Like, for example, doing some pulls and trolling people on the highway would be great to have a GoPro. So maybe I'm gonna have to buy one of those like this week. been enjoying the style of content I've been filming recently or not. Let me know down in the comment section below. It's much appreciated. But do not forget that if you want to enter to win this beautiful 2005 5.9 Cummins plus $5,000 cash, all you got to do is go to lmpgear.com, place an order, and as soon as you check out, you're automatically entered to win. And it's that simple. A lot higher odds than most of you guys realize, because most of the people that watch this, they think, huh, maybe I'd enter, and then they go, nah, I bet everybody enters. It's probably not good odds. It's not even close to true. Just think about how many people think that same thought. So anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to enter the giveaway, because this truck could be yours and that cash could be yours. I will catch you guys in the next video.